Shalom and welcome to this 40th part of our short Bible studies series. The topic of discussion today is Satan's best weapon. And if that has left you guessing, let me lead you to that answer. I'd like to begin by repeating an often repeated story about the time Satan gathered his co-workers together for a strategy session. And the purpose of this was to find more effective ways to tempt Christians and Messianics into sin. One evil spirit said, "Let's set before them the delights of sin." And Satan shook his head. That worked up to a point, but not with the strong believers. Another demon suggested, "We can show them that virtue is costly." Satan again shook his head. They know that the rewards are absolutely worth it. And then a third demon with a knowing look in its eye said this, "Let's bring discouragement to their souls." "Ah, now you have it," cried Satan. Discouragement is the weapon. And how right he is. Every single one of us experiences discouragement. It doesn't matter who you are, no matter what your circumstances, what's your background, everybody experiences discouragement of some kind, sometime or another. And I certainly have experienced lots and lots of discouragement in my own personal life. And so many times discouragement is the doorway through which the power of evil flows into our situation. For discouragement says, my problem is bigger than God, who is not adequate to handle my particular need. So henceforth, I take my eyes off God, bow down before my problem, and give myself up to it. Now, if you dig through the scriptures on this subject, you will discover that no matter how difficult a situation, Yah'shua's attitude was always a calm, "Courage, my son," or "my daughter, have no fear, there is nothing here that my father cannot handle." It wasn't that Yah'shua in any way minimized the problems that we faced, but rather that his faith was a magnet for Yahweh's power. He knew that no problem was any match for Yahweh Elohim, the mighty creator. Now, I think it would be true to say that every single one of us could now come before Yahweh with this short little prayer. I confess now that I'm discouraged because I have been relying on myself rather than on you. I've expected something from myself and am deeply disappointed to find it's not there. I want to think that I can handle things myself, to succeed better, to do more than others. Once you come to that realization, you are in a position to fully surrender to Yahweh and let him take over your problem for you. Perhaps some of you are familiar with the writer, Brother Lawrence, who wrote a book called The Practice of the Presence of God. And he writes that he was never upset when he had failed in some duty. He simply confessed his fault, saying to Yahweh, "I shall never do otherwise. If you leave me to myself, it is you who must hinder my failing and mend what is amiss." And after this admission, he gave himself no further uneasiness about it. Now, what the devil wants you to do, of course, is to focus on your failure rather than on Yah'shua. But when we keep our eyes on him, we find that no problem of the first century or the 21st has ever defeated him. Yah'shua never encountered a human situation that discouraged him. Sickness and disease, Yah'shua healed a man blind from birth, a woman who had an issue of blood for 12 years, another bent double with arthritis for 18 years. At not one of these cases did Yah'shua look with a despairing heart. Did sin get him down? Never, no matter how heinous. Yah'shua insisted that he had come into the world not to condemn us, but to save us, as we learn in that famous passage of Scripture in John 8:15 and also in 12:47. His attitude was that any time spent in condemnation, in wallowing in old sins and regrets, in recriminations, in kicking ourselves around, is really just wasted time. The woman taken in adultery, he forgave and restored her immediately. Zacchaeus had spent a lifetime in greed and grasping, yet Yah'shua told him, "This day has salvation come to your house." Yahshua's word in any situation was one of encouragement. To the paralytic borne by 4, "Courage, my son." To the ruler of the synagogue whose daughter was dying, "Have no fear, only believe and she shall get well." To Martha grieving over her dead brother, "Did I not say to you that if you would believe, that you should see the glory of Elohim?" You hear that, Satan? In the name of Yah'shua, I kick you and discouragement out of my life. Amen.